Hi everyone, it's me, ChanahEmiliania. So, as you know, I promised I would take people's requests. Well, that isn't quite happening, considering that this is the first video going up since I made that promise. Sorry guys, I'll try to be better. It's just, I haven't completely recovered from this really hard school year, which is why I've got these bad dark circles and I keep on breathing like that. I'm basically really tired and working 2 days a week as my mom's secretary and helping my sister with her class and both my sisters with college apps. It's all very crazy. But I'm gonna try to be better. So after a month of taking requests, I basically have roughly 3 weeks to get them all done. I'll do my best. The one exception is going to be I can't do a ranking because I don't have the patience to dig through lots and lots of different versions of things. So, person who requested a ranking, you know who you are. Let me know if there's something else you'd like to see from me. I have an idea, but if you have a better one, I'll use it instead. So, this request came from BR Disney, or BR Disney, who has a really awesome blog that I'm going to link below, since he or she, I don't actually know, hasn't been doing much on YouTube lately. This is a Facts About Me video. So, thank you BR Disney, muito obrigada for the idea, and thanks to all of you, dankeschön, muito obrigada, muchas gracias, etc., etc., for submitting things you wanted to know. Be warned that I'm not that cool. No, that's not just a bad pun about the fact that it's summer here. I'm not that cool in the sense of I'm not that interesting, or at least I don't think so, so this video won't be that interesting. I know the lighting isn't great, but best I got. And again, sorry for the weird breathing. Hopefully the sound's okay. If it looks like I'm reading stuff, that's because I am. Okay. I'll start with a question from one of the YouTubers who made me want to join YouTube and do substrans videos. And I'm only just realizing now I'm not quite sure how to say her YouTube name, which is kind of funny considering her question. I'm going to go with Sezka or Sizke. How do you pronounce your username? Hehehe, I've been curious about it for a while. Which is funny because I'm sure I've explained it, because I remember explaining this to you at least once. ChanahEmiliania. For the first part, that's my Hebrew name. In the US, Jews typically have the name that appears on the birth certificate, their English name, if you will. And then they also have a Hebrew name that's used for temple purposes, for want of a better explanation. I don't know if that's true in other countries. So the first syllable is cha. It's a guttural sort of a sound. If you're familiar with the Dutch language, it's sort of like their G. Or if you're familiar with the word Hanukkah. So cha and then na, Chana, kind of sort of like Hannah. The second part is my real first name, but with a Spanish accent and the stress is moved around a bit, so Emily becomes Emily, but then you shift the stress so it's Emily. Then the third part is my middle name. Again, in the US, I don't know if this is true elsewhere, we have our first name and our middle name. Those together are our given names, if you will. And then we have a last name. In some cases, 2 last names. I've only got one. So anyway, it's my middle name, but with a Russian twist. You'll recognize it if you know the movie Anastasia. Anya. You can also think of it as the Nye from Spanish, or the NH from Portuguese, with an A on either side. So put it all together. ChanahEmiliania. How's that? Next question is from Melilotona, who inspired me to learn German and has therefore inspired a good chunk of my direction in life, oddly enough. What's your funniest childhood misapprehension or misconception? Meaning, is there something that you were convinced of when you were little which turned out to be wrong? The only one I really remember, and it's not a particularly funny one, is that I used to think that when you opened the refrigerator and the little light goes on, it was because there was a little man who lived in the refrigerator, and if he didn't think the food that you had was any good, he would start to make it spoil, so you would throw it out. Actually, now that I think about the part about the spoiling food is kind of funny. That was that. Next, we have a question from one of my newer YouTube buddies, Mystical Sea Mermaid. What song do you identify with, or what song defines you? The Spanish, it seems to go either way. So, the first one that comes to mind... Actually, you know what? Since I've interpreted the question two ways, I'm going to answer twice. Because I can. And I think these two songs sort of go with either interpretation. The first one is Welcome to My Life by Simple Plan. I'm not just saying that because of her amazing Disney Non? Yeah, it's Disney Non AMV that she actually re-uploaded to her new account as a birthday present to me a while back. I'll link it below. I think it's just a really good song that most people identify with, especially in their childhood/adolescence, that you get lonely, people do not understand you for whatever reason, and you just want the world to go away, you know? My second option is I'm Still Here. I don't know how to pronounce the singer's name. He's the guy from the Goo Goo Dolls. You probably know the song from Treasure Planet. The Spanish version is Sigo Aquí by Alex Ubago. God, I love that man. And his son is really cute too, from what I've seen. Anyway, sorry, tangent. That's also the guy who did the singing for Prince Naveen in Princess and the Frog, European Spanish dub. Where was I? Oh yeah, I'm Still Here. Just about not wanting to be ignored, wanting to be counted for who you are, wanting to be guided. I think at a certain point, people like to say that they're completely independent, but that doesn't mean anything if nobody takes you into account, and you have to get there with help. You must depend before you can be independent. Ooh, I sound philosophical. It must be the German Robinoff. Next is from XX Whisker Lady Kazuma 93, also known as Best Kazuma Girl 93, who before that was known as Best Kazuma Girl. I'm going to call her Vale, which I will probably butcher and say Valley, which doesn't make any sense for her. She sounds nothing like a Valley girl. I'll explain that to you later, Vale if you want. Plus, Vale in Spanish means okay, more or less. And I tend to agree with her, especially when it comes to our taste in movie dubs. Have you been in Europe? If yes, in which parts? Smiley face! I'm going to combine this with another question BR Disney had. BR Disney had a ton of questions regarding places I've been. I've been to Europe only once so far. Well, arguably twice, depending on how you count the Middle East. During Christmas break of the year 2009, my family and I went to London. I loved it. It's so cool. It's one of those places where you can go many times in your lifetime and you won't run out of stuff to do. Then I went to Israel for 10 days in late December or early January, just passed. That was amazing. I know people are worried about going to Israel, but go. Even if you're not Jewish, just go with an organized group. That way you're not the one driving on the roads with all the crazy drivers. You'll be in a bus. Bus. I've been to Canada twice. once in Alberta, circa 2004-ish. I know it was after 9/11, and it was in the summer. I'm estimating 2004, I could be wrong. I liked it a lot, but the whole nature thing is not quite my thing. Then the second time I went was during the Beijing Olympics, so 2008. That was to Montreal. I love Montreal. It's probably one of my favorite places that I've been to. It's the place that I usually talk about when I have to talk about where I'd like to visit. It's just very bustling, and I love French, even though I don't speak a word. Well, at least not enough to make a sentence. I've been to South America once, which I think a bunch of you already know about. Sorry, something in my eye. As many of you know, I was in Argentina for about 5 weeks. A quote-unquote very short program. Okay, that was ruining my hands. I'll try to stop doing that. That was during the summer of 2010, aka last World Cup. I spent half of the World Cup here in the States, finishing that particular year of high school, and then I spent the second half in Argentina. The city I was in is called Paraná. It's a really nice city, not too big, not too little. And I had a great time. I just had very unrealistic expectations in terms of the amount of Spanish I would learn and how much I would improve. I learned a lot, I improved a lot. It just felt like a disappointment somehow in that regard. Whatever. I've been to various parts of the United States. I'm not going to try to list them all because I'm afraid I'll miss something. For those of you who are wondering, / don't know, I'm originally from the state of New Jersey. If you were watching any of the coverage of the Hurricane Sandy that hit back in late October, then you know more or less where I live. Actually, not really more or less. You know where I live. Not quite on the beach, about a little under 5 miles inland. That plus being on a hill is what saved that house, I think. Though we did lose some trees out back. I, however, was not here. I'll go into more depth later, but I go to school, to college. It's not really a university, it's not that big. In a town called Carlisle, Pennsylvania. My hometown is called West Long Branch, by the way. Carlisle, Pennsylvania is almost exactly on the same latitude as West Long Branch. So if I were a bird, I could fly in almost perfectly a straight line west from here and reach Dickinson. That's the name of my college. I don't know how long it would take me. By car, it's somewhere between 3.5 hours or so. If you're planning to visit the United States, 1, tell me so I can be excited. 2, here are a couple places I would recommend. New York City, because why the heck not? Most of what you've heard about it is probably true, in the best way possible. San Francisco, I know that's a real schlep for you people coming from Europe, but it's really fun. It's a completely different flavor from New York City, which in the summer actually works to your advantage, because it's not so hot. Go too late in the summer and it'll be cold, but good deal. And then Houston, especially for Spanish speakers, because, well, you get to practice your Spanish, and even if you don't speak Spanish, Houston has its own culture, I would say. Yeah, I guess that's the best way I can explain it. I can't explain it that well, but it's fun. Go. And then the other place I recommend is Philadelphia. If you make a trip to New York City long enough, you can probably squeeze in some time in Philly as well. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of history there, which I think even if you're not from the US would interest you. Okay, let's move on to my future traveling. A few of you have noticed that I didn't say I was going back to college in August. the way I have for the past 2 years. Or a few of you think that I just neglected to use the word college. I'm not going back to Dickinson. Yet. Don't panic, people, don't panic. I'll be back there in August of, oh my god, not until August of 2014. Late August 2014. Eek. So where am I going on August 12th? Europe. I'm going to be in Malaga, Spain, so the Mediterranean coast, from August until the end of December. Then I have about a month to wander around places. I don't know yet if I'll be coming back here at all. Then from the beginning of February to the end of July-ish, I will be in Bremen, Germany, which is on the North Sea. Yeah, it's a weird word to choose, but I'm so very excited for it. If you people are in Europe and want to be visited, let me know so I can visit. Sorry that I'm doing a happy dance and therefore shaking it. Actually, I'm not sorry. While on the topic of Europe, another question from Vale. What do you think about Italy? I'll answer the part about the Italian language later. First of all, I love Italian food, or at least the American versions thereof. I'm told that I'll probably like the Italian versions too, as long as I remember to avoid the whole pork and shellfish bit. Never been there. From what I know about Italians, which is primarily from Vale, from the 4 that I met from while I was in Argentina, and from the girl from Bologna who lived on the same floor that I did this past year. Italians seem to be pretty awesome. And from what they've shown me in terms of pictures and stuff, Italy sounds pretty cool. And I have a bunch of friends who are studying abroad in Bologna, so I'll be sure to visit them, and I can probably swing by other parts of Italy too. I also hope to visit Toulouse, France, Norwich, UK, or England, and where are other people? Actually, those are the big ones, I think. It feels like there are more places where a bunch of the Dickinson people are going, but whatever. Oh, and sorry that I keep on going on tangents, but that's the way I am. Alright. Now for a question from Ice Lakina, who popped into my life not too long ago. Or rather, popped back into my life not too long ago. I originally knew her as ChanahEmiliania, or something like that. Then as Selene. Or maybe it's the reverse order. I'm very glad she found me again, because her question is interesting. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be? I'm gonna go with Montreal, because I think, but I do like living in the United States, so one of those 2 places. If I spoke enough French, or had a way of learning French while I was living in Montreal, I'd feel more confident in that answer, but I'd like to live somewhere where I don't have to drive. I can't stand driving. But also somewhere that doesn't have too many people. So, New York City, not really. Wherever I live, I want a credit card that will give me lots of frequent flyer miles, so I can fly a ton. I can't stand airport security, but whatever. You gotta deal with these things. And sorry if the video freezes up. Boy, I say sorry a lot. Okay, now for a list of my favorite things, with suggestions from VR Disney, Fale, Gabby, that's Mystical Sea Mermaid, and Islakina. Favorite TV show? The Simpsons. Favorite live-action movie? Remember the Titans. Favorite animated movie, which actually trumps the live-action movie? The Aristocats. Favorite song? Everybody Wants to Be a Cat. Favorite type of music? Classical if I want to hear words, pop Classical or pop, it depends on whether or not I want to hear words. I'm getting myself confused. Favorite animal? Bat. No, I don't think that baseball bats are animate objects. I mean, the little flying mammal guys. Speaking speaking of baseball, that is my favorite sport to watch. I don't have a favorite sport to play. I don't play sports. Though I did get a varsity jacket for doing marching band. But I haven't done marching band since high school. Favorite activity? Reading. I realize that's barely an activity in terms of getting exercise, but the question was nice and ambiguous like that. Favorite food would be ziti with marinara sauce, or maybe it's really just tomato sauce and they call it marinara so that it'll sell better. Favorite beverage? Water. I know, boring. Favorite language? Really, BR Disney? Really, Ice? You had to ask? I don't really have one. I like English being my native language because, one, no matter what people say about this country, I love it. Two, most people seem to have a devil of a time learning it, so I'm glad I didn't have to learn it from textbooks and teachers and things like that. Okay, so let's discuss languages. Sesuke asks, what was it that motivated you to learn other languages? Spanish, I had no choice, at least in the beginning. When I was 5 years old and starting kindergarten, so starting to go to school starting to go to school, it was a required class, and it stayed required for all of elementary and middle school. So until I was in 8th grade, and I was until I was 14-ish. Yeah, 14. It was my favorite class for, I don't actually know how long. For most of my life, it's been my favorite class. I like to learn about different people and different places, and Spanish is very pretty, I think. In high school, I could choose between Spanish, French, and Latin. French, actually, I had to rule out because they wanted you to have already taken French if you were going to take it in high school. They've actually since changed their minds, and you can start beginner French in high school, but you can't do beginner Spanish in high school, which is more sensible, I think, given the number of people who have studied Spanish in the past. So I chose to continue with Spanish, and when I was about 16 years old, I realized that I was essentially a languages nerd, a grammar nerd, and that there was more to it than just people and culture. That's when I realized that I liked languages, and that was what I wanted to do. Believe it or not, before that, I was in a pre-engineering high school. I actually stayed there until I was 18 and graduated. And I was hoping to become a pediatric neurologist. In other words, a doctor. Yeah, I still can't quite believe that. Or rather, I can't believe I thought it would be any good. In college, I've learned German and Portuguese. Well, technically, I learned a little bit of Portuguese before, but whatever. Nobody asked me what languages I would like to learn. I think they were all afraid of a very long answer. Your fears are about to come true. I'd like to learn Hebrew because I know how to read it. Sort of well. The trouble is that they don't always print vowels in Israel and in newspapers and stuff. That you have to basically know the language in order to figure out what's going on. That sounds really weird. So I'd like to learn what the heck I'm saying when I read. I'd like to learn Italian and French because they're both really pretty languages. And I think, and from what I've seen and heard of them, they're similar and yet different from Spanish and Portuguese, and I like to play around with those sort of similarities, differences. On that note, I'd like to learn Dutch because it sort of strikes me as sounding like Hebrew, yet acting like German. Okay, that was a really weird comparison, but yeah, add that to the list I'd like to learn. I'd also like to learn Arabic, because it just sounds really cool. And then for a list of superlatives, courtesy of Sesuke, prettiest language, Spanish, most romantic language, Italian, no matter what you think of the spirit of, because let's face it, how do you say that? Zucchero, or no, it's not just, I think that is Zucchero. He doesn't quite sound romantic. He just sounds annoyed, which is how Spirit feels for most of the movie. The strangest language is Hungarian. Strange in a cool way. And now for a question that 2 people asked, and it completely threw me off guard. Both Valley and BR Disney asked, what's life like in an American college/university? I'm guessing this is because Monsters University came out earlier in the summer, which I'm gonna see once it's on DVD. I don't go to the movies all that often. Anyway, what do I study? I am a Spanish-German double major. I don't have a minor, because I don't have the time to do a minor. A major is basically that you take a lot of classes in that topic, though not all your classes. So by the time I graduate, I'll have taken 10 Spanish and 11 German classes. If I were to do, say, the Portuguese-Brazilian Studies minor, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, I study Brazilian Portuguese, though I can fake my way through European Portuguese a little bit in terms of accent. But anyway, that minor is 6 classes, so about half a major. Do I choose my own classes? Yes, but I have to meet requirements. Like, I have to do specific classes for the major. I have to fulfill certain so-called distribution requirements, like 1 quantitative reasoning, 2 science labs, 2 social sciences, writing intensive, blah, 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 blah. All that over the course of 4 years. And then you also have to play around with the fact that I go to a college with only about 2,600 students. It's all undergrad, not any grad students. So we just can't offer everything all the time. Like, there's no Portuguese 101 flat-out beginner's level. We have Portuguese 115, which is for someone who already speaks a Romance language, that you can get through the grammar and stuff faster. And that's only offered in fall semesters. It actually used to be only offered in spring semesters, but they changed their minds because of the minor. Are my teachers, or rather professors, nice? Most have been nice, but at the same time they've mostly been challenging in a good way. But it's like anywhere. You have good ones and you have bad ones, and then it varies from person to person, class to class, how things work out. Like, there was this one professor I had for a writing class in Spanish who was absolutely terrible with that class. And a lot of people were like, oh, he's really good at the upper levels. Nah. And then I've also had arguments with my friends over certain professors because they won't like one and I will, or I won't like one that they like. Just the way it goes. How much time do I spend there? Most of my time. And this past year, as opposed to my freshman year, it goes freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. My sophomore year was just insanely busy. I took on way too much, which is why YouTube didn't see very much of me, and Gabby kept on thinking I had died. Yeah. Do I have to live there for months even sleeping there? Yeah. That's normal for the United States. Don't ask me why. I don't know. If your family happens to live nearby, you can save a ton of money by staying at home. But most kids don't want to do that. Most kids want to get away from their parents, be independent, or at least that's what I did. I'm typically there from end of August until mid-December. Then I have winter break for about 5 weeks. It's way too long. Until late January. Then I go back and I'm there until mid-May. We have a very brief midterm pause. It's 2 days off of classes plus the weekend, so a 4-day weekend in mid-October. I stay on campus for that. It's just not worth it to come home. For Thanksgiving, which is a major American holiday, I imagine you've probably seen it talked about on Friends or maybe The Office, I don't know. You've probably heard about it, I mean. I can't think of it in any Disney movies, though. That's the last Thursday in November. So, my college gives us days off that Wednesday, that Thursday, and that Friday plus the weekend. So that's a 5-day weekend, and I do go home for that, because that's when I get to see a lot of my family. Not just the ones that I typically live with. In mid-March, we have an 8-day long spring break, and I come home then, too. That's in the middle of the semester. My last question is from BR. I told you there were a ton of questions from BR. My daily routine. I tend to get up around 7:30. Yeah, I know, early, but I check my emails and stuff. I am on Facebook, so PM me if you want to know my full name and find me, so that you can keep track of me while I'm abroad. Then I have breakfast. As I said, I work 2 days a week. When I'm not working, I'm typically helping my sisters with stuff, or trying to get ready to go abroad. Actually, let's face it, that hasn't happened yet. On Fridays, for most of the afternoon, I'm with one or both of my sisters, helping my grandma at her house. She's about 5 minutes away by car. We can't walk it, there's a highway. To get ready for Shabbat dinner. I eat lunch around noon, dinner somewhere between 5:30, 6:45. I shower. I do stuff online for about an hour and a half, and then I go to bed around 9 or 9:30. So, even though this wasn't really a tagged video, I'm going to tag people. People being tagged, you may do a normal tagged video or something closer to this, I don't care. I'm just curious about you. I've never done one, at least not one that I've seen. Number 1, Melly Latona. Can't wait to visit her in Germany. Number 2, oh dear, how do you say this? Rob ODL 96 or 99, nowadays mostly 96, who I met through Melly Latona. And he's an American like me. He actually lives not too far from my college, who speaks both Spanish and German. Maybe someday we'll convince him to also speak Portuguese so he could be just like me. Number 2, BR Disney. One of my newer friends, but still a goodie. Number 4, Lisa Gisne, sorry for the long accent, Pete, who's got a whole bunch of channels for that European Portuguese. So it should be Lisa Disney or something, I don't know. Sorry, I don't do European that much. Last but not least, one of my oldest internet friends, I mean since at least 2010, is Parchisvan. We call each other Profe because we want to teach each other's languages someday, more or less. Below I'm going to link their channels, plus the blog I mentioned earlier, plus all the people who submitted questions, because they're all my buddies. Check them out. I'm also going to link my abroad blog. You can also find that link somewhere or another on my channel. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have more questions. I can either throw together another one of these videos, actually don't count on it, or I'll just come up with some other way of answering.